Let's have a look at a very intriguing case from SilverStone called the MILO 12 Slim. You can use it vertically or horizontally, and it sports a dual compartment layout that separates the CPU and GPU. This means it relies on a Gen 4 riser card, also included. At 15.6 liter, this is just for ITX motherboards. CPU cooler is capped at 77mm, but it accepts graphics cards up to a 3x slot design and 345mm in length by 160 in height. Psu support is excellent from SFX to ATX, and you can even have a slim optical drive. It's a bit expensive though, at around 180 bucks, but what isn't these days? Standard packaging and protection practices are in order, but what I like regarding accessories is this X-brace for the vertical placement for maximum stability. Speaking of, you get even this rubber stick-on fit, which will come in handy if you plan to use the case in horizontal mode. Here is the riser card adapter, which is custom made for this case and looks of good quality. As for the front I/O, we have an activity LED, reset and power button. Then in the middle, one jack, one Type-C and two regular USB ports. Lastly, the slim cover is for the optical drive. At the back we can see why this case can accept a triple wide GPU. Another thing I like is that all of the outer panels are removable and interchangeable, while the big ones have removable dust filters and everything is secured via thumb screws. Now let's explore the inner frame. This is the main side per se, where the motherboard and PSU reside. PSU area is on the bottom left. This is the SFX and SFXL modular bracket, and if you plan to use an ATX power supply, then you lose the option to install the optical slim drive. Self-explanatory front I/O cables, and that's the PSU extension cable. You can install a 2.5-inch drive up front, another one on the bottom and two more here. Also at the front you can install an additional 80mm fan. As for the GPU side, there's the motherboard cutout with plenty of access. The case even has this retractable GPU holder and then plenty of wire management access holes. Lego time. Install the PSU, and because I'm using an ATX one, I have to remove the bracket. Then connect the extension cable. Next is the motherboard with its own I/O shield if it has one. As I mentioned before, there is plenty of space to access the back of the motherboard regarding the CPU heatsink brackets, but unfortunately not enough for this model to install or remove the M.2. The riser card is pre-bent and will fit like a glove. You have up to 77mm tall air coolers to install, but unfortunately this case doesn't accept any Aios. I really like the access to the ports around the motherboard just by removing this SSD tray. Put any extra storage if you need, and the GPU is next. I took advantage of this pillar since it let me to zip tie the GPU wires to it. It's a pretty straightforward building experience, and even with a non-modular ATX PSU like in my case, you still have plenty of space to accommodate all the extra cables in this section here. The case is too tall for my desk, but on wider ones it shouldn't be a problem. The X-brace is pretty sturdy and secure. Those ventilation cutouts will permit any RGB you possess to be noticed, but in a subtle and non-intrusive way. Lastly, the front AIO is in excellent reach. Since I'm on the stock AMD cooler, I had to lock the 5600X at 1.50 volts for 4 GHz across all cores to have consistent results, because on auto mode the voltage input is way too violent. Albeit this was in a cooler environment, the MILO provided plenty of ventilation. As for the GPU chamber, the separation from the CPU chamber is excellent with no interferences. Regarding the total system noise output, as well as the GPU cooling, these are highly dependent on what components you use. So this is how it sounded in my test. I really like this MILO 12 case where everything has a purpose. You get great component support from all the popular styles of PSU formats, clever usage of the space for the 2.5-inch drives, and even the option to have a slim optical drive. As for the downsides, well, the price, and the main one is the lack of AI support, since these newer CPUs are so hard to cool.